everyone, Gary Simon here of DesignCourse.com. Welcome to Design Challenge number 23, the review. And this week we had some good entries, we had some bad entries. Some were really good and some were really bad. I think the key takeaway from this week's challenge is try not to go with the most obvious concept. Try to think outside of the box. Okay, so if you haven't yet, subscribe here, check out DesignCourse.com, and let's get to the review.
All right, so let's get started here. Let's go to the first entry, and this is from, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. Okay, so when I saw this first initially, I thought, okay, this is probably what most people went with, the idea of a sailor, like a steering wheel on a boat. What the hell is that even called? In an earth. So this works very well as a symbol because it's uniform, it's circular, and done a pretty good job here outlining, the various details, but not too much detail, because if you ever look at like a real picture of the Earth, there's tons of tiny little land masses. These tiny ones right here, the Caribbean islands, I believe, those might get lost at a smaller size if this were to be scaled down by like maybe 90%. But other than that, it works well. It's good that you use just one color here. You don't have a lot of crazy effects that a lot of people do. Simple shapes, simple forms. The only possible downside would be that it may be almost too obvious. Not to say that this isn't good, but one thing, if you were to be developing this for a real client, for instance, you definitely want to do multiple concepts and try to see if you can come up with something that might be a little bit more unique. So thanks for that submission. All right, down here we have Dara. Okay, so looking at this, I really wasn't sure what's happening here on the left. I think I could see kind of like an anchor right here, and this is supposed to symbolize an Earth, but I just don't see the Earth aside from maybe just the ellipse here, the general shape. Over here, it's a good idea, but the one thing that I kind of immediately recognized in this logo was the Marines logo. Now, of course, it is still quite a bit different. Yours is simplified, and this one has a lot of stuff going on, but you can still see the anchor going through, which is the same kind of general idea. In terms of everything else, though, execution-wise, simplicity definitely did good. Again, this is just one of these things that probably wasn't intentional, but people, like myself, when I first saw it, I kind of immediately thought of Marines logo, which is a negative, of course, when it comes to such a well-known symbol. But yeah, other than that, I really like this one a lot. So thanks for that. All right, so Mario here, we have an E monogram combined with a sail. This is definitely really unique, and I would say really good execution for sure. I think maybe the green here might be the only hint, and also the E itself, to the idea of Earth. But we could definitely see the sails here, and it's definitely very stylish and well executed. So very good. Thanks for that. All right, so here's another one from Lorik. So there's a couple problems with this. So first, we have three different pieces of symbolism occurring here. You have the anchor, you have the wheel, and you have the Earth. Ideally, you just want to stick to two of them. So either get rid of the anchor or get rid of these right here, because you really want it to be simplistic. Second issue would be you kind of just slapped or overlapped this anchor on here just with a 1 pixel border, and that's not ideal, because if you were to scale this down, that 1 pixel becomes blurry and and just doesn't look good. So you would either definitely, if you're going to stick with the anchor, increase the weight of the stroke or the border that you have here. And third, even if you had that fixed, if you did make it thicker and you didn't have that issue, I would still say it may just look slapped on, kinda. Not really much thought has gone into trying to combine these two symbols in order to make it almost its own unique symbol in and of itself. So those are just a few gripes. Other than that, you stuck with for the most part simplicity in terms of not using all these effects. But yeah, thanks for that. And Rado. Okay, so Again, we have three different forms of symbolism. We have the earth, we have the wheel portion, handles, and we have the E. So again, I would stick with just two of the three in order for this to be most effective. Because it does feel like, okay, here's the symbol, and then we have E over here. Where's the earth? Is it supposed to say earth over here or what? It just kind of feels a little bit disconnected as a symbol or as a single symbol. So that's my only gripe. Everybody's been doing a pretty good job, including yourself, in terms of keeping things simple, especially with color and not using all these crazy effects. So you're definitely doing that correctly. So thanks for that. Okay, again, we have one of these pretty obvious. It doesn't look bad, but an obvious sort of concept here. This is what I was talking about earlier when it comes to all the detail. Of course, at this resolution, it's fine to have this detail, but when you scale that down, these tiny little land masses are going to become blurry. So this area right here will be a little bit blurry. This over here will be a little bit blurry. Now, I've heard the idea of responsive logos, when it comes to responsive web design, how your layout and your user interface adapts. There are the ideas of having responsive logos so you can simplify the forms at smaller sizes, but ideally you don't want to have to go that route. So I would just get rid of some of the real tiny details here with this shape. Other than that, I like it. There's maybe a tad bit of a concern. These are far away enough. I don't think it would be too much of a problem if you scale this down. You definitely don't want it to get blurry along these edges, but it may be far enough scaled away. I would maybe even remove these right here, these inner ones. Other than that, good submission. Thanks for that. Okay, so Marilyn, we have a lot of issues with this one, unfortunately. The colors clash with each other. So there's not a lot of contrast between this hue of green and this hue of blue. There's also inconsistency because you have a 1 pixel black stroke on this over here, but then there's no stroke on the land masses, so it creates for an issue of inconsistency. You have this gray down here, which doesn't really seem to have much of a purpose, and then you have this looks like kind of like a misshapen S. It's kind of not smooth along the edges. I understand this is probably a sail, but there's just a lot of issues here that need to be tackled in order for this concept to be truly effective, I would say. So keep trying and keep following the advice I'm giving throughout the rest of these videos here, and you'll eventually get it. It just takes practice. Thanks for the submission. Bobby Mike. All right. This is another one. Sorry, my daughter just came barging in. There's a lot of issues because I looked at this and I really wasn't sure where the element of the sailor or sailing and ships or whatever comes into play, because these right here, the bars are supposed to act like waves. I still don't see it. It's just too difficult to understand what's happening. Add to that, the land masses, they're not really anything you can recognize if you look at a globe, for instance. They kind of just seem random. So it may be it's a little bit hard to even know what this shape is in and of itself. So try to stick with more relevance. You definitely have simplicity down, and you're not using a lot of crazy effects, so you have that going. But trying to make it a little bit more obvious as to what's going on and what's happening here would be ideal. It's fine to be abstract, but not to the point at which most people would be scratching their heads. All right, thanks for that. All right, George X, we have this one here, first time doing something like that. Okay, so looking at this, I see no Earth. Just looking at it, I don't see any type of reference to an Earth, maybe aside from the circular shape, but then again, that's not enough to really know. So that's one issue. Another issue would be having the letters ES, which I assume stands for Earth Sailor. It becomes just a little bit too cluttered, I would say, because you have, the difference right here from the E and then the white when it intersects with what are mountains as mentioned here. But again, that's not obvious enough. So when I looked at this, I didn't know that this was a landscape of some sort. So that's an issue. We need to try to make those a little bit more obvious. And I would say probably find a different way of trying to get the ES there without intersecting, because all of these different intersections creates for clutter, and it makes it a little bit hard to understand and read. So if you probably got rid of these ES and this white parts, it might be a little bit more obvious that this is a landmass. So you may want to get rid of it entirely. So the rope, yeah, that's definitely a slight hint at the idea of sailing, but maybe not enough for a person to say, oh, this is, a sailing logo or whatever. But other than that, good job. I definitely did well with lack of use of colors and effects and all that. So everyone's pretty much done a very good job at that aspect, at least. So thanks for that. All right, so digital art. By the way, you can update your avatar and it will actually work now. So I fixed that issue. So looking at this, let's see here. Okay, one problem that this may be unintentional, but due to the landforms and the land masses, I thought this was like a face almost. I mean, obviously it's an earth, but the face, I saw like two eyes right here and a nose. Again, probably not intentional, but I'm not sure if this even aligns up with the actual earth and how the land masses are formed. This could be Africa, I'm not sure. But other than that, I'd say definitely a good job with the colors that you used, and everything kind of complements each other well. But again, it seems like the face thing is just kind of throwing me off. But yeah, I like the simplicity of it. It's not extremely simple, but it's not complex, or it's not cluttered either. So good job on that front. All right, here's the same sort of take from above. And I would say the strokes right here in between, the hat and the earth would be too thin, because when you scale that down, it's going to look like one tiny pixel line, and that adds to clutter. So you would want to, you would definitely want to thicken those up. Another issue is if you look at the green and blue right here and then compare it to the green and blue used up here, it's a lot easier to see this one. This one, based on the hues and the lightness of them, they almost bleed in together. So it's hard to see that. So I would definitely use a darker blue right here, and it would be a lot easier to see. I guess I would say aside from that, pretty good execution. I think if we fixed both of those things, it would be a lot better. So everything else you did a good job with. All right, another one from Pixel Factory. We have, another one from this individual. Again, definitely a unique take. I'm glad, a globe wasn't used. Now this is a piece of earth. So in terms of executing that concept, that works pretty well. It's definitely one of the type of logos that kind of feels more cartoonish than it is serious, which, isn't necessarily a bad thing. Tiny details like this right here, the little sailor, probably unnecessary, because remember, when it comes to the logo design, ideally you want to try to, symbolize what you're trying to, or illustrate what you're trying to symbolize in the most simple but unique way possible. So I would probably get rid of that. The tiny little wood strips here, I would thicken those up or remove them. Other than that, definitely a good idea and a unique concept, especially compared to the other ones. So thanks for that. All right, this individual made some changes based on the other one. You definitely get the idea of Earth again, or Sailor rather. In the E, in the Earth, not so much, but again, we already reviewed that one, but thanks for that. I don't know how to pronounce it, Mariah. So looking at this, definitely unique. You know what I would do, actually? I would get rid of the E and the S and try to just combine these into one symbol. And then that would be really unique, because if you brought these two together, you would tackle the idea of Earth with the leaves and Sailor, water, right there. So, and it seems like this would almost fit right there to make one really cool sort of circular symbol. And that would definitely be an abstract and unique take on approaching this logo. As it stands with the E and S, it doesn't look too bad. Again, I think it would be awesome to see what it would look like by combining these two in some unique way. So definitely thanks for that unique take on it. All right, Chaos, let's see here. When I saw this initially, I definitely like it as a symbol. I wasn't sure where the sailor portion comes into it. Maybe I'm just ignorant and I'm not sure what this thing right here is. I guess I could, for some reason, it does seem like this is like a sailor type of thing. I don't know. I sound ridiculous. I like everything else though. The very abstract Earth here. You could definitely tell this is a globe attached to a spinning globe. But then this down here, I'm not sure what's happening. Damn it. I don't know why I can't really review this one well. I do like it, the form and everything. Very simple. Scale it down well. Yeah, it's just one of those logos. It's hard for me to really pinpoint. I think if there's some other slightly more obvious hint at sailing, it might be a little bit more effective, but I could be completely wrong. I failed there. Let's see here, Earth and Sailor. So this one definitely has potential. I would say simplify the shape because we have so many tiny details. Scaled that down and get it to become cluttered and blurry. I'm not sure what's happening down here though. Because usually I know what this landmass is. This is South America, but it doesn't look like this, so I'm not sure what's happening there. But I do like the transition from the Earth to a sail in kind of like a unique form. So definitely good. It definitely has. Let's see here. Oh, okay. So after reading this, I understand now they tried to get an S out of this. And there's an E in here in the negative space. I didn't really see that. And it's hard to see the S for sure in here. So unfortunately, that wouldn't really work too well. I would say that's not even relevant to or needed, I would say. Trying to convey the E and the S. You don't have to do that. I would say just trying to have an Earth here. Combining into this sail would be more than enough for it to be an effective logo. So thanks for that. And finally, okay, well, no, not finally. We still have a few more. This one was funny because everybody associates beer drinking with sailors, but unfortunately, that's a stretch. Most people are going to look at this and they're not going to think anything about sailing. Having said that, though, it's a pretty good logo. Simple shapes, obviously, so it should scale well. In the long shadow thing, that's starting slightly to become a little bit overused and dated, so I probably wouldn't include that when I'm trying to showcase a logo anymore. I definitely wouldn't make it a part of it. I guess showcasing it's fine, but not making it an official part of the logo. But having said that, simple shapes, simple colors that work, so that's definitely good. Let's see here. 2 variations. Second one. Okay, let's see here. So I kind of like this because the shape of the Earth and the land masses are definitely stylized, kind of like in this blocky format, and I think that definitely works. So the very interesting sort of skewed sail boat up here, I think that works well as well. So yeah, it's not too much I could say that's really bad with this. So yeah. Thank you for that submission. All right, this one immediately reminded me of the the Internet Explorer logo, which I think like the older version of it. So I don't see any hemispheres on the Earth is a negative space of an E. So this one, you can see kind of like a sail or the hint at sailing, but this one not so much, unfortunately. Now this one, it almost reminds me of like a basketball of sorts. So the problem with this, of course, I don't really see an Earth being symbolized here directly. So if I didn't know anything about this logo, I might not see the Earth. But other than that, between the both of these, simplicity, use of colors, lack of, crazy effects, definitely a positive. So thanks for that. And then finally, our last submission here. Yeah, definitely a lot happening here. I like it. Very interesting use of these. I'm not sure how you would kind of these shadows essentially. Let me go ahead and scale down my browser here just a bit, just so we can see a little bit better. Yeah, I like it. It's one of those certain types and styles of logo designs that have a lot of fine details in it, but I wish we could have done without the background here and just have it on a pure white. I think it would have been showcased a little bit better. But having said that, I really don't have too many gripes with this. You could definitely tell, it's a sailor with this anchor. Also, the life raft, which are generally orange and black, I believe, or no, orange and white. And obviously the sail or the earth right here. So, yeah, I think it's done pretty well. Again, one minor critique, I would say, might get it confused with the marine logo, but again, I mean, it's tough to avoid those certain instances, especially when you're basically have the same type of concept. When the Marines, obviously they're the U.S. of course, and sailing and anchors and such. Aside from that, very good entry. So thanks for that, and that is it. All right, so thanks everyone for the submissions. We did pretty good on this one. Let's see how many we had. 21 submissions, or 20 submissions rather. So tomorrow, again, just for those of you that don't know, we're going to be having every Tuesday is going to be a new design challenge. So look for that, and also every Monday, just as with today, is going to be the review videos. So every week you can look forward to a new design challenge. All right. So make sure you subscribe here at YouTube if you haven't yet, and check out designcourse.com. All right. Goodbye.